Tension between the United States and Iran in the modern era dates back to 1953, when the U.S. backed a UK-planned coup against Iran's first democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. He tried to nationalize Iran's oil industry to take it out of British control. The U.S. reinstalled the deposed Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and provided him with security and Iran's first nuclear agreement, which saw the U.S. provide a nuclear reactor and uranium for domestic energy production. The Shah, while ruling with a strong hand, was a staunch ally of the West and Israel until the Islamic Revolution of 1979. The Shah fled the country, and the U.S. administration of then-President Jimmy Carter ended up allowing him and his family to reside in the United States while the Shah received medical treatment. Washington's refusal to hand the Shah back to Iran to stand trial angered many in Iran, and students stormed the U.S. embassy and held 52 American hostages for 444 days. A failed U.S. military rescue operation and the severing of diplomatic ties helped end U.S. President Carter's re-election chances. The U.S. then backed Iraq after it invaded Iran in 1980. That bloody conflict lasted until 1988. In 1984, U.S. President Ronald Reagan labeled Iran a state sponsor of terrorism as Iran backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. One attack on a U.S. Marine barracks in 1983 killed 241 Americans. In 1988, a U.S. naval ship shot down an Iranian civilian airliner. All 290 people aboard died in what Washington called a mistake. Under U.S. President Bill Clinton, the U.S. stepped up sanctions on Iran, accusing it of sponsoring terror groups and advancing a nuclear program that could lead to a nuclear weapon. After the September 11th attacks on the U.S. back in 2001, then U.S. President George W. Bush said Iran was part of a so-called axis of evil, despite cooperation between the two nations on confronting al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan. Decades of tension eased from 2013 as high-level talks led by Washington under President Barack Obama helped deliver the landmark JCPOA, a nuclear deal which enshrined Iran's right to civilian nuclear power but monitored uranium enrichment and potential weaponization plans. Iran received much-needed sanctions relief. But the thaw between Washington and Tehran ended in 2018, when in his first term, U.S. President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew from the nuclear deal and reimposed sanctions. Iran began increasing the level of enrichment of its nuclear fuel. Trump also ordered a drone strike in Baghdad that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, commander of the elite Quds Force of the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps, a unit deemed a terror organization by Washington. Iran responded by attacking U.S. bases in Iraq. In his second term as president, Trump in March reopened negotiations with Tehran over its nuclear program, with a provisional deadline to reach a new deal within 60 days. Progress was positive, and in May, Trump said a deal was, quote, very close. But just 2 days before a planned sixth round of talks, Israel started its bombing campaign against Iran, one which the U.S. ultimately joined, targeting nuclear sites with the potential to produce nuclear weapons. Asieh Namdar, CGTN, Washington.